Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I would be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to cast maybe one of the highest skill games that has ever graced my presences over on the Discord channel, helpfully submitted by a viewer and long-term patron of the channel, a supporter that I greatly appreciate, none other than Angry Strawberry herself, sent on over this replay after sharing with me that apparently the OP lobby managed to get pretty spicy today. Some top-notch players that apparently were duking it out all day today, and this did end up being one of the better, highest skill matches that came out of some of those really cool games. So enjoy with me today as we hunker down and take a look at this game that was played recently on Tartar Steppes. Now, a tar-laden wasteland full of trees and gaseous vents here for geothermal extraction. Loads of resources available here for these commanders to take advantage of, and these top-notch commanders definitely will, as they are often the quickest commanders on the block to get those resources up and running. And today, having the honor of leading the red team, it'll be none other than Pro X Factor Live. Pro X Factor Live, hailing from Germany with 54 open skill silver chevrons as well, and gonna be showing us what the red team has in store for us today. Going an Armada commander here as well, which is always cool to see. I love when we watch Armada commanders play at the tippity top of the pyramid, because a lot of times we do see a lot of Cortex in those competitive 1v1s. 8v8 feels like where we get to see the Armada units shine and their teamwork 8v8s. Oh, interesting. We're sharing some units over here. Oh, cheeky strategy already coming out. Let's meet the blue team leader really quickly here. It's none other than Hellshound, clocking in at 50 open skill and a tournament winner, according to the badge right here that you can see. The little star right there indicating there's a tournament winner. And the blue team, you might notice, has 3 tournament winners. So definitely another team stacked with loads and loads of APM and plenty of competitive spirit here. We've got action already on the field. What a cheeky little strategy. So the tan commander has gone ahead and handed over a whole bunch of units early on to the red commander, just giving all these ticks and pawns and grunts and all sorts of other stuff over to the red commander X Factor Live here in order to micro on the way towards the other side of the map. There are ticks inbound though from the lavender commander that's going to be Patak. The the bottom of the barrel for the blue team being Patak, one of the most experienced beyond all reason players of all time. Going to be the very bottom player, just setting the bar for exactly how high the skill level is in this particular matchup. Yeah, that's Patak, the lowest OS player here on the blue team. My goodness. If that doesn't say exactly how high skill this game is, there really isn't anything else that's going to do a better job. Text being perfectly microed over here, and you can see the purple commander absolutely unprepared for the amount of units that are headed in this direction. Obviously, this is 2 players worth of units, right? So we're seeing a ridiculous amount of swarm now headed onto the base of Bloodier, and you know what? Bloodier's doing with this wonderfully. Yeah, for how many units there actually were right there, this is not a bad amount of damage. Remember, that was 2 commanders worth of complete production right there. It stalled the economies a little bit right there for the red and tan commanders, just pumping out those units so quickly. And with all the defense right here, this was really, really nicely done. There we go. Yeah, Grunt gonna be able to snipe this last tick here. Ooh, ring around the rosy, but it will eventually manage to defend. You know what? I'm gonna say it. That was just about as perfect a defense as you could possibly hope for as far as defending against 2 armies up against 1. An excellent use of resources right there by Bloodier. And I think it just goes to show exactly how talented these commanders are at actually multitasking all of that. I can tell you right now, I would have lost to that attack immediately. I would have gone down almost instantaneously. Certainly my base would have been destroyed, my commander would have died, my buildings would have crumbled. Static defenses, metal extractors, all of it would have popped right there, and Bloodier managed to hold all that and more together very, very nicely. Minimal casualties right there for the purple commander. Now, this has bought X Factor a little bit of comfort here. As you can see, the red commander going very greedy into the expansion right now, paying for quite a few constructors here. My goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 constructors in grand total going to be pumped out onto the field right here before even an entire another combat unit is produced. And it looks like we're going for a few more as well. Eventually pivoting into a couple more of those pawns. But my goodness, what an aggressive eco start right here for the red commander. Yeah, going to be going for a whole bunch of wind turbines, which is no surprise. Those Cortex, those Armada wind turbines, very powerful, very cheap, and therefore very powerful. And it does mean that usually when you get enough of those up and running, scaling constantly, you end up with a situation where you can just scale your economy basically entirely off of good old-fashioned E-converter energy. Grunt's moving across the map right here from the pink commander. That's going to be Master Bell 2, moving forward to try and harass the forces here of Luis B. 288. The 39 open skill German player as well, hailing from Germany, going to be clashing here with these grunts, and I think this is a fabulous trade for the green commander. Yeah. Superior numbers for the pink commander means, of course, that the fact that there are hardly any units left standing means this was a decent trade right here for the blue army. I would say, yeah, nicely done. All that cleaned up, and Luis B is going to be able to reclaim and resurrect most of that. This is an excellent defense up on the northern side here, too. All right, that's the red team. 2 swings and 2 misses, I would say. The Ticks doing some damage over here is always nice. Obviously, Ticks find immense value against metal extractors if they're unguarded, because, of course, those metal extractors cost more than the Ticks themselves. Grunt here to try and defend. Having a bit of a rough time blasting down those Ticks, but will eventually get 2 of them. 2 more, though. Managed to make it into the backline. We have the build turrets in order to eat those Ticks should they get too close to the mexes. Oh, but they're all unguarded in the back. Nice little speck of damage right here. Okay. A little bit of splitties on these blue Ticks wouldn't be the end of the world. Obviously, you have to be a little bit careful when these Ticks are low health. They can start to have issues here. Oh, yeah, Resbot's not paying attention. Oh. Critical error right there for the Resbots. That's 2 Resbots down in the backline. About 100 energy production per second while they're reclaiming trees. Definitely hurts the economy right there for the Pink Commander to lose those. And obviously the Metal Extractor's going down here as well. Could have sniped his Metal Extractors. Normally that's this is already fabulous damage. That's just nitpicking an already fabulous start. But in the pro level leagues, it's definitely every point that matters. Little festive Christmas tree here for you, by the way. Now, as far as the front lines go, this has essentially devolved into sort of the semi-standard Rocketeer warfare that we've come to know and love from regular gaming, except I'm expecting that these commanders are going to be a little bit more on top of it as far as the micro goes, pulling these units back and trying to repair them to the very best of their abilities. Jumping on top of these armies, nice little pull right there from the pawns, jumping forward to do a little bit of damage and then pulling back to the safety of the front line here. We do have Centurion as well as a frontline a frontline vehicle lab coming out here for Pro Randy after going ahead for one of those beamer turrets to shut down any aggressive Rocketeer pushes. Lovely stuff, and that Janus turret should be wonderful for blasting down any of those rocket bots that push too far forward, and then of course the Shell Shocker here to fire away from out of range from any of those siege bots. Couple of grunts sprinting forward right here, and it does look like they will manage to pick off a couple of these metal extractors. Wonderful stuff. The brown commander, Sek, manages to steal 2 of those metal extractors here from the powder blue commander and will indeed manage to continue the aggression forward. Looks like a pawn will intervene, though, and save the metal extractor just barely. Nice defense right here. Solid defenses from the blue team basically all around. We do have Florio holding the line right here as his beamer turret goes to work against a couple of these Rocketeers. Rocketeers trying desperately to pull apart this army as much as possible, but obviously Florio holding the line using that commander as well as any of these units that do stand up and running on the fronts here. Yeah, using that commander to intercept those missiles is lovely until, of course, that commander gets real low, and then things start to look a little bit sour. Red Army looking fabulous right here. As you can see, Bloodier is pushing forward. We've gone into a thug composition. The commander absorbing a couple of those shots from a couple of those Januses. Every time those Janus fire, though, it feels like they're getting immense value. Whoa. Thug and a couple of grunts goes down right there. This pawn army is looking dangerous, and with those Januses for support, we have missile trucks as well for the vision. This is a really difficult army to beat right here. So X-Factor showing us definitely that they're bringing their A-game, not interested in bringing second-tier strategies. No B-listers here. It's full power, full throttle, full direction towards the purple base. Janus tanks overkilling that metal extractor by about 1,000,000 miles. Still important to keep those in the comp, though, those Januses, because they do force back the purple commander here. As you can see, Bloodier really doesn't have a good angle to engage. Those aggravators are really the tool you need in order to actually properly, efficiently fight Januses, but it takes a monumental amount of APM in order to micro all those units. So it's a really extensive cost, and obviously the purple commander Bloodier clocking in at 44 open skill, and a tournament winner is certainly going to have the APM to do that, but you got to remember we're going up against a red commander here who also has virtually unlimited APM as far as bar commanders go. In fact, we can look at that right here if we hover over this number. There it is. APM of 65, which is relatively high for Beyond No Reason. Usually players, you know, kind of sort of average commanders lingering around the 30s and 40s tend to average about 30 to 40 APM. 65 is quite high. Pawns here, ravaging the base right now of the powder blue commander. Nicely done. An excellent little run by there from the yellow commander, but gives up a large portion of the front line for it. A little bit of a trade between the orange and the green commanders right there. Orlani Zykas will move forward with the commander cloaked in order to get on top of this wreckage right here, but there is an agitator available. The agitator is definitely an issue. It might be worth trying to even go for the D-gun right here. Orlani moving forward. Yeah, I think he wants that D-gun. Definitely wants that D-gun right here. Without any LLTs to force his commander back, the D-gun is assured. And the powder green commander does manage to make it out of there. You know what? All that said and done, the commander is actually unescorted by anything but those shell shockers. Boom goes the commander as a whole bunch of pawns jump on top of it. An excellent usage of resources right there. The orange commander now set up in position to reclaim a whole bunch of that commander. In fact, I think these construction turrets, at least one of these construction turrets, could probably go ahead and reclaim that commander's corpse, funny enough. We are going to set up some static defenses here. So we're going to go for a twin guard. I think that's a lovely idea. Going for those static defenses when you have the build power is always a lovely plan. Meanwhile, medium tanks, push it forward. Master Bell in position. Nice positioning here from the commander. The pink commander in spec to try and degun these down. Ooh, fire it away. Oh, misses the degun. Oh, no. Master Bell had the opportunity to kill about probably 5 medium tanks right there, I would say. Cutting this army maybe in half. Nice micro right here from the blue commander. Hellshound, though, does mean that these tanks are going to be able to pop the base right here of the maroon commander Praetor. Man, nothing needs you to realize just how vulnerable these bases are to run-bys. Quite like the pros, taking advantage of those run-bys, am I right? Medium tanks now shutting down every metal extractor they can find. Wind turbines, all the rest of it going to be popped here as the medium tanks move into the back line. Wouldn't mind a little bit of a splitties right now in order to try and distribute that damage across the T2 front. Meanwhile, T2 rolling out of a forward lab right here, threatening the commander of Praetor. Out on the front line, celebrating that Christmas cheer with the little goblin riding on top of the commander. Praetor in a lot of trouble. Those lightning tanks can reach out quite a distance, and indeed, boom, goes the maroon commander. 41 open skill commander does go down. Medium tanks still pulling apart the backline right here. As you can see, wind turbines, metal extractors, even LLTs, all going to fall to the might of the humble stout. A brutal force to deal with, indeed. Oh, actually, a nice transition right here from Master Bell. Goes for some shuriken in order to try and paralyze these tanks. I love that a lot, actually. I think that's a great play. One of the very few ways you're going to clean up these medium tanks with any modicum of efficiency is just by going ahead and going for those shuriken. And it's tricky to pull off, right? You have to go for a full air transition, which is expensive to say the very least. And Master Bell has managed to pull that off nicely here. Going to produce some grunts as well, but the shuriken, really the stars of the show. We need to get these shuriken to paralyze the tanks before the grunts jump in. Oh yeah, too many of those grunts are falling. Obviously, the grunts lose firepower as they lose numbers, right? Their firepower is almost directly correlated to the amount of grunts that you have. Oh, geothermal goes down right here as medium tanks are now rolling out of the production lab here for the lavender commander. The powder blue commander has been devastated for quite some time. Red forces, meanwhile, swarming through the cyan army on the southern side. Griko Bratko taking over for, I believe, the purple commander here, Bloodier, has thrown the towel and will now be knocked out of the game. A little bit of a commander trade on this front line means the red commander is running away with the economy, and as you can see, these E-converters economies from the Armada faction are so dangerous to go up against. Wind turbines after wind turbines, and unharassed, this economy is really, really difficult to try and put down. Meanwhile, medium tanks, the relics of the T1 army right here from the red commander will manage to push into the base, going to knock down the powder blue commander, Teriyaki Tilo, once more. Nicely done, blasting down that laboratory the blue commander was working so hard on, just for it to be torn asunder once more. Yeah, medium tank's not going to hold up well against this T2 army. We have proper hounds now rolling out of the lab, a full-blown T2 composition, ready and waiting to deal with these medium tanks. Medium ticks, that would be interesting. Something about a medium tick just rubs me the wrong way. That feels like a unit that would be dangerous to fight. Lightning tank's taking a great engagement against a lot of this T1 right here. Massive battlefield worth reclaiming as well. Worth pointing out. Gunslinger, trying its best. Those T2 tanks are too powerful, though. Gunslinger's finding very rare value in pro-level games just because they move so fast. You can see we're 13 minutes into this game and already properly into T2, and headed directly towards T3 already. A lot of these commanders getting ready for that T3 transition. As soon as those advanced geos come online, I'm pretty confident that these commanders will be stepping into T3 almost immediately. Marauder are too powerful to pass up, and of course Razorbacks and Shiva and Karganath also on that list as far as units that can turn the tides of a war. Bulls manufactured and sent down north to try and push back the forces right here, and doing a decent job of it, actually. Yeah, managing to shut down that radar jammer means they can fire away at a little bit further range without necessarily having line of sight. Always valuable, of course, and the medium tanks jumping on top of this in the front is nice as well. Just a little buffer of HP, allowing these balls to actually have a little bit of extra sturdiness to maintain themselves. Constructors right here jumped on by medium tanks. Not bad. Not bad whatsoever, but the base of the orange commander is in a whole lot of trouble. Autopilot now suffering immensely as those Jaguar lightning tanks swarm the base right here. Relatively cheap, clocking in at 330 metal apiece. Very fast, and packing a little anti-air missile as well to deal with shurikens or any other paralytic forces that might descend upon them from out of the skies. Abductors, namely the other important EMP producing unit, EMP shooting unit. What an action-packed game. Back and forth to a T. The Green Commander resurrecting here, which is a little bit strange. I would expect reclaiming a little bit more so. Eating up all this metal and turning it into T2, if not T3, would be not impossible to believe. It's certainly an efficient play. You can see those T2 metal extractors coming up and running all over the place here, essentially funding the entire work. Bull continuing to try and be valuable, but you can see so many of these have already been produced. Shurikens now jumping on top of whatever of these tanks are possible. Shurikens repurposed from the early game, now going to be used well into the medium game, the mid-tier game, the T2 game. That is, roughly speaking, what I reference whenever I mean early, mid, and late game is T1, T2, and T3. Not always, because sometimes those T2 units do bleed into the T3 game a little bit, but more or less, you understand what I mean. Fusion reactor coming up right here for the Red Commander. As you can see, loads and loads of wind turbines in the backline here as well. Not only for the Red Commander, but for the Tan Commander as well. This seems to be a very popular strategy among the pros. Basically just going for a gigantic amount of, sorry, a gigantic. I don't know where that came from. I've started saying that on accident. I've sort of like Pavloved myself into saying it more. Really strange, I know. Anyways, a gigantic amount of wind turbines is wonderful for those Armada commanders because obviously they're very cheap and easy to build, and it's basically free scaling. As you get into the late game, one or two wind turbines can pay themselves off very quickly. It means that after a little while it starts to become an exponential growth that's really easy to afford. Push on the northern side is looking dangerous, and these lightning tanks are hitting deep into the enemy lines, pulling apart these wind turbines. Sort of a weird interaction, but lightning turrets do tend to be extremely effective against wind turbines. Obviously, most units are effective against wind turbines, but for how effective every unit is, the Jaguar tends to be even more so, which is, you know, maybe that's saying something. Pulling apart these mexes in the backline is wonderful too, though, yeah. The Red Commander going for those T2 mexes in the backline as well. Looks like we've just barely started upgrading those mechs because basically the whole T2 transition started in the midsection. So as you can see, the Red Commander has claimed basically every metal extractor here, which is always cool to see just how quickly these commanders can expand. Producing that metal out of those mexes is affording a tremendous boost to the economy here and is now overflowing tons and tons of metal, hundreds of metal to the Red team in order to fortify their defenses. Cool to see. A little bit of teamwork goes a long way, and sharing those resources helps the team that the teammate that might necessarily need, you know, a couple hundred metal in order to finish a geothermal that powers up that T2 production. It can really save a teammate in dire need if oftentimes you do end up sharing that metal. Unless you have a direct plan for it, sharing the metal can be vastly beneficial to the team. Here we go, though. Like I said earlier, Jaguar here pulling apart these wind turbines, having a lovely time of it. After all, why shouldn't it? The constructors here are going to citizens arrest that Jaguar. A mess of units marching forward right now. We have a whole bunch of pawns trying to swarm this area, but we do have ticks to reinforce here, and we do, of course, also have the beamer turrets, which are quite good at melting things down. You can see even putting in significant work against these welders here. Getting basically a perfect engagement with a little bit of flanking bonus on those welders means that these beamer turrets are doing a great job at defending here. Yeah, you know what? That's phenomenal. One of these guys is stuck in the laboratory and can't be targeted. Little bit of a targeting bug right here, but it looks like we will indeed get the construction turrets to pull it apart eventually here. Welder goes down, but manages to take out the lab, which is always cool to see. The Pitbull within range, or barely outside of range of the shields, is hilarious as well. We got more lightning tanks building up right here. The pink base looking a little bit vulnerable. Shurikens are nice and all, but again, those Jaguar have the anti-air missiles, so they can shoot those Shuriken down relatively easily. You need quite a lot of them in order to effectively paralyze Shuriken. In order to effectively paralyze Jaguar, I mean. The red expansion is hilarious. Oh my goodness. We're just going for beamer turret after beamer turret, building all these metal extractors all over the place. What a hilarious method of expansion right here for the Red Commander. Just going for those LLTs to make sure the tanks can't actually, or the ticks rather, can't actually get in. And I guess those T1 tanks are going to struggle a little bit here as well. Meanwhile, the laboratory pumping out more and more units. We've got fusion reactors coming up in the backline here, finally spending that metal on something, and you can see more and more of those fusions scaling up here as well. Cool to see. It seems like the pros have really gravitated towards building those fusion reactors as opposed to building advanced fusion reactors. Seems like you can get them up and running a lot faster, means you can be aggressive a whole lot faster, and that of course means that you can eat up your enemies' corpses and steal their metal extractors a lot faster. Ultimately, if everything is done right, a faster method of getting a higher power economy, ultimately, but not nearly as infinitely scalable as the advanced fusion reactors are. Certainly one trade-off. When space constraints are an issue, the advanced fusion reactor does shine. However, in most situations, you're not going to get to a point in the game where space constraints are an issue, I guess is the real kicker there. The blue commander going down right here to some Sheldons and Grunts and all sorts of stuff coming out. Bulls threatening back the Sheldon, but again, the Shuriken are in position. If there's no anti-air included here, then I want to say that this is probably going to be relatively defendable. Army on the northern side looking dangerous. We do have those starlights mixed into the composition here as well. Let's get a action shot of that starlight. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Boom, with this little blue laser beam. I always love watching those things work. Such a satisfying unit to watch carve apart the enemy forces right there. Obviously quite effective against the good old-fashioned T1 units, but supremely effective against those higher power T2 and T3 units. Bulls here en masse, though, going to be wonderful for tearing apart this T1. Basically perfect for dealing with the big swarm of T1. The Bull has a decent amount of AoE. It also has a huge damage bump relative to the medium tanks of the T1 era. Means that suddenly you can start to deal with ticks and pawns and grunts and all those other cheaper units with extreme ease. Marauder pushed forward right here. Not quite caught by the blast right there of that Twilight Metal Extractor. The Bulls pushing forward through this base and finding themselves in a lovely way. Yeah, a couple of constructors going down over here to the beamer turrets. Hilarious. And here come the Marauder. Sweeping up from the southern side. It's a bit of a yin-yang push. An all-in right here from the Cyan Commander, sending those lightning tanks through to try and do some damage. We need to kill a couple of bases if we want to take this right here. The Hot Pink Commander is still holding, though, resurrecting those tanks and putting them back on the field. And, of course, utilizing as many of those commanders as possible. Oh, we're trying to res the commander. That's going to be expensive. Resurrecting one that's intact a little bit cheaper than resurrecting one that does cost metal. At the end of the day, though, the Marauder are already in the backline of the blue team. T2 metal extractors falling rapidly here. Light laser towers and wind turbines not going to fare too much better either. And indeed, as these Marauders sweep across this field, suddenly there's not really an answer. We don't have enough Shuriken, we don't have any abductors, we don't have bombers, we don't have gunships. The blue team caught unawares, unprepared for this T3 transition. It's gonna come down to this. If this push can do enough damage, then I think these lightning tanks can somewhat save the game. It's going to be a race to see whether they can kill enough bases before the Marauder hit the main production up here on the blue center. An extreme ask as these Marauder are pushing forward very steadily. Sweeping forward through these bases and popping those T2 metal extractors for 9 metal a second, basically 10 metal a second. Losing each and every one of those metal extractors does hurt quite a bit. And I think the Marauder have done it. Lightning tanks finally making it to the base. Blowing themselves up on E-converters. Eventually managing to get to the wind turbines, but really the wind turbines aren't the crux of the economy at this point. An excellent boost here for the tank commander, sure, but the fusion reactors and advanced geothermals are really the soft spots here. The Marauder, meanwhile, tearing apart the base here of the blue commander. The resign vote is called as the Marauders sweep northward from the southern side, cracked open by the red commander and taken advantage of by the tan. It'll be Florio and X-Factor Live that managed to lead their game to victory in this epic back-and-forth match of Beyond All Reason. God, I love watching the pros play. Up and into a late-game T3 battle by 22 minutes or less, or your money back. Thanks a ton for watching, and if you do enjoy, please feel free to subscribe down below for more epic Beyond All Reason content just about daily. And as well, you can check out the Discord channel. Link below in the description where there's plenty of cool replays to check out in the replay submissions channel and your replays in case you want to see them featured. Excuse me, featured right here. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, though, folks, and I will see you in the very next cast of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.